Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you for the invitation for being here. I'm going to start my presentation off with a little poem. It says, "It's 3:23 in the morning and I'm awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in my dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew?" So we all know that there's a problem and our antibiotics are failing. And if we don't do something about it soon, we are going to go to an era where antibiotics don't work anymore and our patients are going to die from simple infections that were once curable. And to think that this is something only happening in the rest of the world is wrong. In 2012, Dr. Brink and his colleagues published a map of all the instances where the carbapenem-resistant Enterobacteriaceae were found. And so it's not something that's happening only in America or only in Asia. It's something happening right now today in our hospitals. So what did we do? And our biggest challenge was actually shifting the paradigm of pharmacy. Pharmacists initially were kept in the pharmacy, and we had to really try and balance a pharmaceutical service with a clinical pharmacy service. So you can't go and check if the patient is on the right drug at the right dose given at the right time if the patient doesn't have their medication. So the first thing was really trying to balance our pharmaceutical services, making sure our turnaround times was right, making sure that we delivered efficient processes for direct dispensing to patients, whilst decreasing dispensing errors, etc. And doing all the operations of a pharmacy that it's supposed to do. But now at the same time, we had to take pharmacists out of the pharmacy and into the wards so that they could go and check on the patient's antimicrobial therapy at the bedside. So this was our biggest challenge and the biggest shift that we had to take in order to advance the practice of clinical pharmacy and to do review of antimicrobial stewardship principles at the patient's bedside. So we built a foundation for our antimicrobial stewardship program. The first was that we needed a pharmacist that could go and do ward rounds at the bedside. We knew that there was a gap in knowledge. We are all generalist specialists. We don't have specific infectious disease training. And what we needed to do in order to get that going was to actually mandate protected time for pharmacists. So we went and had discussions with each and every pharmacy manager, and we asked for 1 hour a day. Could you please let a pharmacist go out of the pharmacy for 1 hour a day? Okay. The next was establishing a committee or a forum where these problems and issues could be discussed at a hospital level. The third was collecting data for the interventions that the pharmacist did. If you all know, my director has an engineering background. She's also a pharmacist, Dr. van der Berg, and she's very, very strong on data. So it's very hard to show if the changes you implemented caused an improvement or had an impact or made a difference if you don't have the data to show that. And so collecting data from our pharmacists was one of the biggest aspects that helped to drive our antimicrobial stewardship program forward. The fourth element was to work towards improvements in sustainability in the metrics that we were measuring. And I'll speak to this now. So what is quality improvement? The division that the antimicrobial stewardship program is led in Netcare is through the division of quality improvement. So we work on this methodology. So okay, the pointer doesn't work. So I'll use this. So every system is designed exactly to achieve the results it gets. Okay, so you might think that you have a good system, but one day you go and things are looking really good, and then the next time you have an audit, then you're really poor, so you put systems in place, and then in your next audit, you look really good again. But what do you need to do in order to get your system operating from this level down to this level? And we use the quality improvement methodology. So this is Asking yourself 3 main questions. What are you trying to achieve? Thanks. What changes can you make that will result in an improvement, and how will you know that your change is an improvement? And you use data and continuous learning cycles to track if your interventions are making a progress. So the problem is it's quite easy to do something in one hospital, but if you're doing it from an organizational perspective and you have 56 hospitals to spread this work to, how do you do that at a pace and scale that gives you the desired results? So we use this breakthrough series, which is a quality improvement methodology that helps accelerate and spread your impact. So what this methodology does is it takes the best available clinical evidence and experience plus local relevance, and you go and test whatever you're trying to achieve in a few sites. Once you have established a methodology, you can then spread this to scale. So you then take a set of hospitals in our case, and you bring them all together, and you start discussing what you want to achieve, share ideas, etc. And you take them through this process via various learning sessions, and at the same time, you provide intensive support. So you keep monitoring and tracking and making sure everyone is going for the same goal and doing what is required from them in order to achieve that goal. So how does this work? By using this breakthrough methodology, people learn from each other so that they can make a bigger impact faster. You have to give skills and tools and provide people with an opportunity to reflect on their learning. You also, by doing this, identify common challenges and opportunities that you can work on together. So it was very hard for one hospital to say it's impossible to give a pharmacist 1 hour of time a day to go for ward rounds if the hospital down the road was giving their pharmacist 2 hours a day. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this is just an example that I'm going to take you through of how we spread this program through all of our hospitals. The first thing is we worked with early adopters. So we took one stewardship initiative called Hang Time, which is the administration of an antibiotic from the time that is prescribed to the time that it's actually given to the patient should be within 1 hour. So we said to this hospital, please go and test this and see how pharmacists can measure what their hang time is. So she said, I'm sure we don't have a problem. This ward that I'm testing it in is right next to the pharmacy. If they need a drug, they get it as soon as they want to, etc. So we said, okay, just go and measure and see what your compliance is. And she went, and her compliance was just above 40%. Okay, so 40% of the patients got their antibiotic within 1 hour following it being prescribed. So she was shocked, and she went and did training. Training then just helped with getting it to 80%, okay? And then she went away, so there was no data collected, and the next week she went and it was 100%, so she stopped collecting data, okay? So we said, well, go back and just look as to what your thing is a few weeks later, and it had gone back down to about 70-something%. So this then became a project that we wanted to roll out to the whole hospital, to the whole group. And so we developed an implementation toolkit for 33 hospitals. The first was building a collaborative, getting everyone involved, getting leadership endorsements. We then got hospitals to collect 4 weeks of baseline data. Following their baseline data, they then tracked their compliance every week to see how their results were improving. They continued collecting data. Some hospitals have over 200 weeks now of hang time data. But the important thing is that every week the information was submitted to a project manager that gave input and feedback back to the hospitals on how they could drive change and work towards improvements. We gained support by using this methodology of multiple graphs. So if you didn't submit your data to the project manager, you were a nice red little block. No one wants to be the red block, so the next week they were then not a red block. Okay, eventually we did this and we published this. We showed a statistical difference in the increase of compliance post-intervention, pre-intervention, and this was published in the Infectious Diseases and Therapy Journal in the United States. So Adrian will also speak to this publication that we did in The Lancet. We used the same methodology of a bundle of low-hanging fruit interventions, and we got all the pharmacists to collect that data for a set period of time. Sorry, I thought I had 15 minutes, not 8. Okay, so what did that take? It took 64 pharmacists over a 5-year period, and an antimicrobial stewardship intervention every 14.7 prescriptions. It also took 53 learning cycles, so getting everyone in a room to share ideas, face-to-face sessions, as well as telephonic conference calls. Okay. And how did we get there? We first formalized a group goal. We set leadership endorsements at hospital and group level, relationship building at the hospitals, which was through the committees, protected time for pharmacists, training and providing toolkits, and constant encouragement and intensive support. Okay. So what did we do to increase the knowledge base, because we aren't working with infectious disease trained pharmacists? We had numerous face-to-face sessions with expert guests. We got our microbiologists to help us, and they played a critical role in each of the hospitals to support the pharmacists in understanding what to look for at the patient bedside. We also asked doctors to help us. Okay. We found that doctors also want the best for their patients, and so if we work together, we can help each other in moving forward. We established a mentorship program through the South African Antimicrobial Stewardship Program with the Ohio State University, and 7 pharmacists were mentored at that university, and the expectation was for them then to come back and train other pharmacists in Netcare using the train-the-trainer methodology. We also sponsored 22 Netcare pharmacists to undertake postgraduate studies in clinical pharmacy, and those are being undertaken at many of the universities here today. And we encouraged our pharmacists to write up the work in the form of abstracts for conference attendance. And today, many of our pharmacists are actually publishing themselves in the South African Pharmacy Journal and others. So we really wanted to set up a program of a research focus with recognition and reward for good work. And so we did that through abstract writing, and if the abstract was accepted to conferences, we made it possible for them to attend. And it kind of just grew over the years. In addition, since stewardship is for everyone everywhere, and I was a previous very junior lecturer at the University of the Witwatersrand, we decided to set up student rotations and incorporate antimicrobial stewardship in the 4th year syllabus. So in 2014, we started the student rotations where 12 students attended 4 of our hospitals. This grew in 2015 to 56, and again this year we did 56 students in 4 of our hospitals. And we also incorporated lectures into the 4th year pharmacotherapy program. It's 6 to 8 hours in the year, and that's been running for the past 4 years. Our experience as part of the hospital rotation, what our pharmacists have given us feedback on, is they said it was scary for them to learn that this was the first time students were exposed to ward rounds. There's a vast difference in student knowledge. They find it difficult to interpret clinical results in accordance with the patient's clinical representation. And it's important for them to have the theoretical knowledge as well as the soft skills associated with being able to do stewardship. So I'll just come to this slide. What has our learning been so far? For Netcare, it was to work with the early adopters first, to collaborate, but collaboration is not a passive process of sharing ideas and having meetings. It needs strong leadership and a tightly held container that drives performance. We needed to change our conversation from difficult to doable. We needed to be upfront and deliberate about our plans. We needed to ask for help. And don't underestimate the soft skills portion of antimicrobial stewardship. Half the battle is the relationship that it takes. So remember 1 + 1 = 3, the collective being greater than the sum of the individual parts. Thank you.